Live from Fort Pierce, it's your County Commission meeting for February 4th, 2003. If you will please stand for the invocation and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Let us pray. Dear Father, our prayers go out to the 7 astronauts who lost their lives this past Saturday morning. Please bless and comfort them and their families and friends. In your name we pray. Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Okay, first up is the minutes of January 28th, 2003.
Move approval. Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it unanimously. Proclamations and presentations. I don't believe there are any for tonight, but are there some announcements, Mr. Anderson?
Yes, Mr. Chair. The board will hold a workshop with staff, the fire district, constitutional officers, and Thomas Lucido and Associates on February 20th, 2003 at 2 p.m. in Conference Room 3 of this building to discuss the Administration Complex campus plan. The Board of County Commissioners and the City of Fort Pierce Commissioners will attend a Fort Pierce Parks bus tour on March 27th, 2003, beginning at 2 p.m. The purpose of this meeting will be to tour county and city parks in the City of Fort Pierce area. That concludes the announcements.
Okay. Up next is general public comment. Does anybody wish to approach the board with any item that's not the subject of a public hearing tonight?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, Charles Grandy, Hutchison Island. I assume we've all read today's editorial in the Tribune. If not, I've provided copies. Clearly, if the Trib sees the error in Senator Pruitt's position relating to the port, it must be obvious to everybody. Consider that the 87-acre mega-yacht plan is supported not only by the environmentalists, but by the area businesses and virtually all of the homeowner and condominium associations. Consider, too, that it's supported not only by this commission, but also the City of Fort Pierce and those representatives of Port St. Lucie that have cared to comment so far. Even Representative Maychek, once he took the time to come and view the area and talk with the locals, changed his position and no longer opposes condemnation. We have one remaining local delegation member who, although unable to question the Haskell plan or come up with logical reasons for opposing it, has jumped on condemnation as wrong to do to an outside investor like Mr. Bell, while it's okay to do to St. Lucie County homeowners and taxpayers like the people on the West Virginia corridor who've been notified that they cannot keep their homes and must make the best deal they can or have them taken. I don't mean to say that that's wrong. What I mean to say is that condemnation is something that's used, has a use, and really fits what's happening at the port. Somehow the anti-condemnation argument rings hollow if you look at all of the activities in the ports around us and the activities in our own county. Please keep the plan intact. We asked you to vote for condemnation in 2 weeks and get the process moving. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else wish to address the board tonight? Seeing no one, we'll come back to the board for the first of, we do have the consent agenda, and the consent agenda is a series of items that are put on the agenda as one, and the board considers them as a package. Any commissioner can, of course, pull any item for separate discussion or vote. Are there any items that any commissioner would like to discuss separately?
Mr. Chairman, I have several I'd like to discuss briefly. First is C3B. The item is regarding a software program that staff is interested in buying for the Public Works Department, and I just would like some background information about why we did not choose the low bidder of the 7, and there may be a very valid reason. It's just not provided in the backup. So could we have some additional information from staff about why this particular firm was selected?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner.
Could you introduce yourself to the entire audience, please?
Yeah, Ed Parker, Purchasing Director. Mr. Chair and Commissioner Coward, this went out for an RFP, and the low proposal didn't meet some of the requirements that the code was looking for, and the overall fit was the second low bid that was submitted by Municipal Software Corporation.
Maybe I'm not seeing all the information, but my tabulation sheet here shows that Municipal Software is actually 4th, not 2nd.
Yeah, and see, when we go out for an RFP, in that process, there are other evaluation criteria besides cost.
Okay, so basically what you're saying is that this group was the lowest qualified bidder.
That's correct. And they appeared to be the most responsive and the one that overall is better for the county.
Okay. In the future, if there's a case such as this where staff is recommending something other than low bidder, if we could just have that documentation in here stating the reasons why.
We can do that.
I'd appreciate that.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Uh-huh.
The next item is also fairly brief. It's 3C. It's an RFP for the water taxi service, and I think the intent here is relating to the closure of the North Hutchinson Bridge. And I fully support that idea. The only question I have is I know when we did the charrette planning efforts for downtown Fort Pierce, there were discussions about a water taxi service being built into the city, and there was also some recent discussions with the county-owned facility there on the Causeway. And I guess what I'm asking is why this RFP isn't done more broadly so that it's not only dealing with the closure of the bridge, but also might be an ongoing thing that we could possibly have, at the county's inlet, or excuse me, the docking space that we have.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Coward, I'll try to address that. With the closure of the bridge lasting approximately 30 days, we have discussed internally setting up a water taxi route between the North Causeway and the South Causeway. The water taxis, loading and stopping points, unloading points would be on the North Causeway where our boat ramp is located. Then on the South Causeway, in the vicinity of where we have the county dock opposite our museum. And we've had a couple companies express an interest in providing this service during that time period. And I think that by doing this, it's more project specific. It's a very limited service. What we could perhaps do is go out for another RFP for a more broader service rather than trying to link the two together. We've had individuals, like I said, come to us express an interest during this time period. And we may get more proposals, so we also do a more general one.
Okay. Well, I'm certainly open to procedurally how best to accomplish this, but it seems that if we're going to make the effort to put an RFP out on the streets regarding, water taxi service, that we ought to build in an ongoing program as well, whether it's done as a second RFP. I think timing-wise, it'd be good to have anyone who's responding to it be able to provide, a 30-day opinion, and if they like to provide an ongoing service, they could also provide some information on that possibility as well.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Coward, if it's okay with the commissioners, we could adjust this agenda request to go out for RFPs both for a 30-day service and then a more wide range type of service.
I think it'd be worthwhile just to get the information for this board to consider. I don't know if anyone's opposed to that, but that's certainly what I'd like to see done.
Okay.
Mr. Anderson, I wouldn't want to scare anybody away from bidding, though, just on the very specific 30 days, because they may be intimidated if you ask them to extend it. So just make it clear that you can bid on one or the other or both.
We'll do that.
Good point.
Mr. Chairman, if I could just add to this issue, I have some concerns. Personally, I think the ferry idea is a great idea, but my concerns are coming that we make sure in the RFP that there's no cost to the county, and if there is, that FDOT comes across with that cost, since it is because of their project that we're even having to look at this to begin with for the 30-day part. And then the second request for an RFP, I don't have a problem with. But again, in talking with Mr. Wozni, I'd just like to remind the board, we don't have gassing facilities down there. All we have is dock space. So, I mean, it's opening it up to a much broader picture.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Hutchinson, we're going to keep that in mind. And you and I, we did have a conversation this afternoon, and I've already discussed it with staff, Mr. Wozni, Dan McIntyre, and some others. And those are very good points you've brought out. And we're going to take those into account when we put this together. And that'll be addressed when we come back to you to award an RFP.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Anderson, I hate to beat this too hard, but I don't know what the RFP will bring back, is if it will put the entire cost on the person who might want to take the trip, or there would be a shared cost proposal. Have you heard any rumors as to whether this would be a money-making venture without any government participation, or?
Oh, we've had a couple of individuals approach us. One wanted us to provide a boat and everything else, and we said, well, we don't have that available, obviously. And another individual suggested, charging some type of fare. Now, I don't know what a fare would be, and what is too much. That's something that's going to have to come back in the proposals. But as Commissioner Hutchinson has suggested, if there is some type of subsidy or cost, we need to contact the FDOT, Florida Department of Transportation, to try to get them to pay for that, because we're forced into the situation because of them.
Well, I would hope we would contact them well ahead of
the time
that we get the proposal back.
Yes, we will.
Look at the legalities. Okay, very good. Any other comment on this item? Okay, you had one other item?
I have one last one. It's item 5A. And this is a tourism special event grant. And I'm not actually concerned about this particular program. I've already voted in favor of it on the subcommittee that reviews these grants. I think it's a great program, and in fact, it's already taken place. What I wanted to ask, though, again, is procedurally, there's several other grant proposals that were brought to that committee that were denied, or had a recommendation of denial from that committee. And I'm curious if those ever make it to this board for a final decision, because some of those I thought were worthwhile. In fact, the Opera Society is one example. We had actually sent them to the TDC for funding, and the subcommittee recommended denial on it, and then it doesn't come back for a final review by this committee, by this board. So what I'm seeing are only the applications or the grants that are recommended approval, but I'm not seeing any final review by this board for those that are recommended denial. And I think we should actually be funding more of those types of local programs that are boosting tourism. And I wasn't involved in that particular vote, but it's something that I think this board should have a final say on. So I guess the question of staff is what's happening to those other grant proposals I don't see them coming back to this board.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Coward, Dennis Murphy, can you address that? Do those grants, whether they're recommended or denied, come before the commissioners if they are denied?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Coward, it's my understanding that if they're recommended for denial by the Tourist Development Council, they've been basically stopped at that particular point. If the board wishes them to come, even with the recommendations of denial from the TDC, that's fine. We can bring them back up to you. That's not an issue.
That would I think be the appropriate thing, because the Planning and Zoning Commission is another example. They're a citizen advisory committee that gives recommendations to this board. If the Planning and Zoning Commission recommends denial on an application, it doesn't stop. It still comes to this board with that background information, and we may very well follow that recommendation, but it still has its day in court. It still makes it up the chain of command and comes to the board for a final decision, and that's what's not currently happening, and I think we should change that.
We can do it.
Thank you very much.
Okay, any other item on the consent agenda that Commissioner feels ought to be separately discussed or voted on? If not, is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have unanimously.
Mr. Chairman, just
Yes, sir.
one closing thought on that item 5A with the Tourism Committee. I would personally like to see the Opera Society grant proposal brought back to this board for final consideration, so maybe that could be the beginning of this new process.
It's already on my list.
Great, thank you.
Okay, public hearing 5A, resolution 03-27.
Mr. Chairman, before we proceed with the public hearing, the board might want to consider including the additions on the consent agenda.
All right, I apologize. There were two additions
Yes, sir.
on the consent agenda, and can we get a motion on them?
Move approval.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thanks for that. Public hearing resolution number 3-27. This is regarding a petition to abandon a portion of South Manor Avenue.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll be handling this. In way of background, the county did receive a petition to abandon South Manor Avenue. It's in the Beaurivars subdivision. The petition was from the president of the Homeowners Association. As indicated in the memorandum, the proposed goal of the abandonment would to prevent the unused portion of this particular right-of-way from becoming a roadway that would provide access into future Martin County developments. The association would prefer that the road be abandoned so that they wouldn't have increased traffic and any accompanying problems to their existing residential neighborhood. The County Road and Bridge Division has reviewed the request and has agreed to recommend approval on condition that the budding property owners dedicate a 30-foot utility and drainage easement to the county. That has been done. Also, staff has received a letter from Mr. and Mrs., and I apologize for the pronunciation, P-E-I-T-Z Pites, who live in the subdivision expressing their support. We've also received a petition with 89 signatures in favor of the abandonment. Notice of intent to abandon was advertised on September 19th and 26th. No objections were filed. Staff recommends that the board approve resolution number 3-27 and 3-28 and instruct staff to record those resolutions along with the publications in the public records.
All right. Any questions or comments before we open the public hearing? Hearing none, we'll open the public hearing now on resolution numbers 03-27, 03-28 South Manor Avenue. Does anybody wish to address the board? Yes, sir. Come forward.
I'm Lou Benson, the president of Beaurivage Homeowners Association. And the annual meeting of the association was held Saturday night, and there was a unanimous vote by the membership to approve the abandonment, plus the signatures. Everyone that we asked and we found at home signed for the approval of the abandonment, not only in the Beaurivage area, but also the abutting neighborhoods on Florida Avenue to the north, Eventide to the west, and in Beaurivage Estates. The purpose is to have this as open land. The property owners, Bowers and Matthews, who live adjoining the right-of-way, have maintained it for years in terms of providing lawn care and so forth. And what we'd ask is that the Commission approve the abandonment of the right-of-way so that we can maintain the residential integrity of the neighborhood as it is. Thank you.
Does anybody else wish to address the board on this item? Seeing no one, back to the board for comments or a motion.
Mr. Chairman, move approval of item 5A.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have unanimously. We'll move on to public hearing regarding ordinance number 03-10. And was there a staff recommendation to continue this item?
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, Ms. Young is going to be handling this item, but as I understand it, staff is going to be recommending a continuance to, I believe, the first meeting in March, which is a night meeting at 7 o'clock p.m. or soon thereafter. Ms. Young has a specific date.
Yes, as the county attorney stated, staff is recommending, pardon me, that we continue this until March 4th. There have been some questions raised with regard to animals in agricultural areas that we probably need to address before we bring it back to you, and that'll give us a month to do that and meet with the people that raise those issues.
Okay, and what we're considering here is an ordinance that would amend the definition of public nuisance regarding animals and fowl.
That's correct. Right now, it just says an animal that makes excessive or continuous noise, and we were proposing to add a 10-minute time limit for measuring that to assist the Animal Control Division in their enforcement efforts. But as I said, there have been some questions raised with regard to that I think we do need to address before the board.
Okay, great. Should we open the public hearing or just continue it?
Commissioner, as we always do, if there's anyone in the audience that has appeared that cannot be here on the 4th, then we'd encourage you to come forward and speak. However, if you can wait until the 4th, that would be the preferred way of doing it. Of course, if there's nobody here, then we can just continue it. But I think I would just ask anybody that is here that may not be able to be here on the 4th that wants to comment.
Did anybody come to talk about the county's fowl? Nobody? All right. So we'll continue it to that date, and we'll move on to ordinance number 03-003, Horizon St. Lucie Development.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, over here, please. Okay. You have in front of you draft ordinance 03-003 and 03-004, which is the next agenda item, addressing the petition of Horizon St. Lucie Development, LLC, for the establishment of 2 new community development districts in St. Lucie County. In the interest of time, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to do the discussion of both of these items at once since they are adjoining to each other, and we will, however, have to have 2 separate formal public hearings on them, opening and closing of said hearings. The map that's appearing on your screen right now highlights the existing Westchester Development of Regional Impact Area. That is this area right through here that is currently subject to DRI review and previous approval by this board for the creation of 4 development districts. And development districts are, as the board is aware, methods that are used to finance capital infrastructure development costs associated with the development of land. Since those 4 districts were approved and the original application for development approval for the Westchester DRI was filed, the development company carrying forward this project acquired some additional lands under the name of Horizon St. Lucie Development. That would be in this area through here. They have since amended or are in the process of amending their application, the DRI application, to include the crosshatched properties in the ADA review. That is currently ongoing through the Regional Planning Council, and it should be completed in the next several months. The purpose of tonight's hearing is to authorize the establishment of a CDD, a Community Development District, number 5 right here, and number 6 right here. County staff has reviewed the petitions, found them to be consistent with the prior reviews and the prior applications that we've addressed in this manner, and would recommend their approval. You will note that in our recommendations, we also have included some of the board's concerns from prior reviews of like districts regarding notification to the public about the liabilities that you face when you buy property in here. And we've included those as specific additional conditions in the ordinances of approval establishing these districts. Again, staff recommends approval of draft ordinance 03-003, and we recommend approval of 03-004. Representatives of Horizon St. Lucie are present tonight and may wish to address the board further if you have any questions of me.
All right, any questions of our Community Development Director? Any comments? All right, we'll open the public hearing now on Horizon St. Lucie Development, District number 5. Does anybody wish to address the board? Seeing no one, back to the board. We'll close the public hearing. Back to the board for a motion. Yes, sir.
Just a real quick question. It seems abundantly obvious from the map, but I want to just clarify for the record. Both Community Development Districts 5 and 6 are entirely within the urban service boundary?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, I move approval of item 5C.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, ayes have unanimously. We'll move on to 03-004, and this is the same item except for District number 6. We will now open the public hearing on District number 6, ordinance number 03-004. Do you need to say anything else on this item?
Just the comments I made from the prior petition apply to this one.
Okay. Anybody wish to address this one? Seeing no one, we'll come back to the board for a motion or discussion.
Move approval.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, ayes have unanimously. That's the end of our public hearings. We'll move on to Administration Shrimp Demonstration Farm Project.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the record, Ray Wozni. The University of Florida Extension has requested that the board approve funding of 500 cubic yards of road-based material for the Shrimp Demonstration Farm Project located on Pecos Road. That is directly adjacent to the Extension office there, our Extension office. Staff has determined that the cost of the 500 cubic yards of material will be $3,500. Staff recommends that the board consider providing this road-based material, and Mr. Duger is here to, I believe, this evening address any questions that the board might have.
Any questions?
Mr.
Or
Chairman.
a motion? Yes, sir.
Yeah, just a brief comment. I understand that the University of Florida was able to get about $250,000 state grant for this project. So I would hope that this small measure on our part will be done to help them move forward. I think the whole concept of freshwater shrimp farming and aquaculture, I think, has significant potential in St. Lucie County, and I hope we'll do our part to try and help this process. So if there's not any further comments, I'd recommend approval of item 6A.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed have it. Ayes have unanimously. We'll move now to Tourist Development Council. There's a seat open on the Tourist Development Council. And before we get started, who's taking this item from staff?
I am, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Do you know, or maybe Commissioner Coward, you serve on that presently, do you know the makeup of the board, whether there's pretty good mix of North County, South County, Middle County? Because we have, I think, 2 from one part of the county and 1 from the other, and
I can't answer that question geographically. I think the bigger concern in my mind is that we have a good mix of male and female, which I don't think we're doing very well, or as well as we should on other committees. In this particular committee, it's the opposite. We have predominantly women on this committee, and I think it would be good to have a few more men in there as well. I'd like to have a nice balance. I hope we can achieve. In contrast to that, I hope that we can actually put more women on other committees where we presently have a preponderance of men, such as the Planning and Zoning Commission. I think we need to do a better job. But that's my only observation as the chair of the TDC, is that I think there's been one other male that served on the committee, and recently I think you appointed a gentleman. So because of that, all 3 of these are very well qualified. I'm personally going to be leaning towards Christopher Egan in this particular instance because I want to try and have a balance on there.
anybody else have any suggestions? I'll borrow a pen.
Sure.
Well, I like the women on there myself.
Mr. Chair, I have the results of the voting. Commissioner Bruin voted for Christopher Egan. Commissioner Coward voted for Christopher Egan. Commissioner Lewis voted for Barbara LaPoo. Commissioner Hutchinson voted for Christopher Egan. Commissioner Barnes voted for Barbara LaPoo. Barbara LaPoo received 2 votes. Christopher Egan received 3 votes. Pamela Haney received no votes. So the result of the voting is the new appointee is Christopher Egan.
Very good. Do we have any other items for tonight? Either any addition items? Okay. Any commissioner have any item they want to bring to the attention of the board for discussion? Hearing none, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
We're adjourned. That's great. 30.